Welcome back to part 2 of the pellet stove stand build. Here I'm just cleaning up the welds on the legs. After we get that done, we'll tack them to the frame and get them welded up. And I did put them over the joint of the frame purposely so it would give it some extra strength. Not that I'm super worried about it, but it's good practice to do that. Then here, I don't know why I put that one so close to the front. I should have put it more in the middle, but at the time it seemed like a good idea. Now that I'm watching it, not really, but it worked out. And the legs are 9 inches tall. That's just to get it off the ground, because my dad's putting this in the basement, which tends to flood every now and again. And here we are welding up the little feet pads. Just a little 2-inch piece of 1/4-inch steel welded some 1/2-inch all thread, and they are about 8 inches tall. So that way he's got plenty of adjustment there. So that way you don't have to worry about them falling out of the bolt or the leg there. And after I got them welded up, I did put them back on the lathe and trued them up. Welding did warp them pretty good. I didn't get no footage of that. Also, I didn't get no footage of me welding up the legs either. So here's a little look at that. You look at that inside weld there. Pretty good penetration considering I had an 1/8 inch gap. And the welds on the legs, they're decent. They're not the world's best, but they'll work. I need to look after I turned them. Not the best turning, but they're flat. That's what matters. And we'll get them ready for powder coat here. Tape off the areas I don't want powder coating. And I'll put a little foil in there just to save some tape. Pretty good trick. And then just tape the foil so that way it doesn't fall off. And then to hold the frame, just stuck some bolts in the end of the legs there and then tied wire across them, and then we'll stick a bar in between there to hold it. And just quick show you how I put wire on the little feet here to hang them. Just right on the area where I got it taped off and foiled off, so don't have to worry about the powder coat not adhering. Sometimes you have to put the wire in a spot where you want powder coat to be, but there's just no other way to hold it. Probably the trickiest part of powder coating is figuring out how to hold parts when you don't have no taped off areas. This one was pretty easy since I got all that taped off area. And we'll get the part blowed off, start powder coating. The color is a semi-gloss black powder. get all the corners and rest of the part covered good. Probably the second hardest thing about powder coating is knowing when you got enough powder on the part. So that way you're just not wasting it, making it, overcoating it. Though it doesn't hurt a whole lot to overcoat it, but you will get orange peel if you do overcoat it. You gotta fill up the ink. I ran out. Alright, back to it. And I probably did overcoat this just because it doesn't really matter for what it is. It's not going to be seen very often, so not worried about it. Here we'll get the oven open, and the oven is preheated, 400 degrees. Got the little heating coils glowing. Trying to do this as fast as I can because the heat does escape pretty quickly when the door's open like that. Get it up in there in their little rail. Try not to touch it. And I did put the part in the wrong way. I should have had it the other 90 degrees. So you can see me trying to rotate it, but it wasn't going to work. So I was just trying to push it in as far as I can without hitting the heater coil there, and where I got clearance for the door. And barely had enough. It was maybe an inch to that heater coil and maybe a half an inch at the door, but it was enough to get the door shut without hitting the part, so it worked out. So we'll let that heat up, flow out. In the meantime, we'll set up to coat the little feet. And there I'm just adjusting my hanger wire. Just wiping off the excess powder coating. So we'll get these coated. I didn't have the ground clamp hooked up. Powder don't stick very good when that's not hooked up. Now it's sticking good. I'm just knocking the powder out of the end of the gun. Powder does accumulate through the barrel pretty good. Something you want to do is shake that out before you start powder coating parts, because it will come out in a mess on you on top of the part. You got to blow it off. But we'll get it in the oven. Having to readjust my little hook there, couldn't get the hook. And there we go. Then we'll grab the other one, get it in the oven. and that is 400 degrees temperature. And once it flows out, which means the part gets hot enough to melt the powder to a solid piece, then you let it cook for about 20 minutes. Flow out time depends on how thick the part is, how long it takes it to warm up. Here we go, got these done. Pull them out, let them hang, let them cool off. And these parts were flowed out and done before the other part in the big oven had flowed out. It was about, by the time I was pulling these out, part in the big oven had finally flowed out. So I just showed you what kind of time difference there is between parts. So we'll get some other ones put in the oven. It is what's nice about having multiple ovens, is you can really speed up the process. And different size ovens too really help, so that way you ain't tying up your big oven with a little part. You can just put them in the little ovens and it works great. That there, I hit the part and knocked off some of the powder, so I'll have to hot coat that later. Which is just where you take the part that's already hot and you spray it with the powder and it cures instantly. That's pretty cool how it works. But here we got the other big part coming out. And it is hot. Even through them gloves it gets hot. A lot of times I double glove for that reason. Here we go, and after it's kind of cooled down a little bit. Pretty decent finish. You can kind of see some of the orange peel there, and some of that also is just the surface of the metal. The powder coat really mirrors the underneath of your finish, so that really, if you want a good finish, you got to have a glass smooth surface to powder coat too if you want it to be perfect. But here we'll get everything little feet attached. Screw them down in there. And again, that's about 7 or 8 inches of all thread, and that was just that way my dad could have plenty of adjustment if needed. In reality, I probably should have powder coated the complete all thread, just to tighten up the interference between the all thread and the nut. It was kind of floppy, not real bad, but enough to where it's kind of annoying, but it'll work out just fine. I don't know if I said it, but this is going down in this basement, which floods, which is why it's 10 inches off the ground, or 10 inches worth of leg, and then however far he has to adjust the feet out. So the reason there's so much adjustment is because the concrete's real broken up, and I didn't know how bad it was when building this. I think the most adjustment he had was about maybe an inch and a half between the one leg that was all the way out and the one that was all the way in. So kind of overkill, but all thread's cheap, not a big deal. So sometime this year I'll get these threaded down. Should I edited this out a little faster, but I guess I'm just lazy. There we go. Came out pretty good. Could have done some things better, but it worked. Should work just fine for him, and it did. Said he had no problems with it. Everything worked great. Everything fit great. Stove set down in there good and tight, but not super tight. I'll give you one last look around it. Truth. Yahtzee. Perfect. A little bit of wiggle room. Perfect. Well, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.